Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we pull back the curtain on big business and sometimes find out things are not quite what they seem. Today we have a filing from Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company, and the title of this one might lead you to believe it is all about trophies and glory, but let's just say there is a bit more drama afoot than you might find on a football field. So what is this all about? Well, it looks like our company, Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company, which we'll just call HOFV for simplicity, has been busy making some significant changes to their financing agreements and dealing with some pretty weighty merger terms. At the heart of this report is something called the 12th Amendment to their Note and Security Agreement. Now, that sounds super official, and well, it is. This amendment is between HOFV and its subsidiaries, including Newco, Retail I, and Retail 2, and a lender called Cheech Capital Lending, or CHL. And here is a key detail. HCL is connected to Stuart Lichter, who is a director at HOFV. Anytime a company is borrowing money from an entity linked to one of its own directors, it is definitely something to keep an eye on. So what did this amendment change? The most important thing is that they've increased the amount of money HOFV can borrow under this agreement. The facility amount went up from $20 million to $22 million. That is an extra $2 million they can now access for general corporate purposes, but it is not free money. There are definitely some restrictions. The other big change is when this loan is due the maturity date. This has been extended, but with some very specific conditions. It is now due on the earliest of a few dates. First, the 31st of October. Second, if a certain merger deal closes. And third, and this is where things get interesting, the 24th of October, if they haven't gotten signed agreements from the holders of their 8% convertible notes due in 2025. These notes need to agree to exchange them for equity in a company called HOFV Holdings, or parent, as part of the merger. And if they don't get these agreements sorted by the 31st of October, that is another trigger. To back up these changes, HOFV and Newco also entered into a membership interests pledge agreement. Essentially, they've put up their ownership stakes in some of their subsidiaries as collateral with AHCL. This means if HOFV defaults on the loan, AHCL could take ownership of those subsidiaries. Now, all of these financing changes mean HOFV is taking on new financial obligations. So what we just discussed about the amendment and the pledge agreement also means they've created new financial duties for themselves. This brings us to a more complex and frankly worrying part of the report, which is under item 8.01. It sounds like HOFV has been in talks for a merger since back in May, but there have been some serious bumps in the road. Back in September, the other side, referred to as the buyer parties, which include Omaha Merger Sub Inc. and some affiliates, sent a notice saying they intended to terminate the merger agreement. The reason given was HOFV's failure to meet its obligations. The termination deadline for this merger has been pushed back a few times, and just recently, on the 22nd of October, HOFV received another letter dated the 17th of October. This letter from the buyer parties and their affiliates states that in exchange for the agreements made in that 12th Amendment we talked about, the termination date has now been extended to the 31st of October. The parent has also agreed not to take action against HOFV under the merger agreement before that date, unless HOFV messes up in some other way. A specific problem mentioned is their obligation to get consent from the holders of their 8% convertible notes due 2025. And this is the big warning sign. If HOFV can't get the note holders to agree to this exchange, it is expected to have a seriously bad effect on their cash flow and financial health. They could become unable to pay their bills, keep operating, and essentially might not be able to continue as a business. The report frankly states there is no guarantee they will be able to pay off their debts or keep going. This is a major red flag for investors and anyone watching the company. Now, looking at the very end of the filing, we see the actual documents attached. We have the full text of the 12th Amendment to the Note and Security Agreement and the Pledge Agreement. These give us the precise legal details of the increased loan amount and the collateral. We also see a copy of that crucial letter dated the 17th of October from HOFV Holdings LLC, Cheech Capital Lending LLC, and others. This letter is key because it lays out the terms for delaying the merger termination and forbearances, all tied to getting those convertible note holders on board. So, what is the verdict here? It seems HOFV is in a tough spot. They've managed to get a little more breathing room on their debt and a temporary delay on a failing merger. The increased facility amount gives them some immediate cash, which is good, but it is backed by a pledge of their subsidiaries, increasing the risk. However, the big story here is the looming threat of insolvency if they can't get their convertible note holders to agree to the merger terms. This report paints a picture of a company fighting to stay afloat, reliant on external approvals to avoid a potential collapse. The connection between the loan agreement and the merger terms highlights a very interdependent and risky situation. The company's ability to continue as a going concern is truly in doubt based on these disclosures. Alright, that is our breakdown of Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company's latest filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.